Hello, welcome to episode 5 of Coaching the Coaches. My name's Connor Cunningham. I'm a foundation course uh, coach in the GAA, but I have many interests including football, ice hockey, hurling, um, normal, Gaelic football, hockey, any sport that I can use to further my development as a coach. The three topics that we're going to be talking about this week is formations, number one. Number two is balance, and number three is skills. And they're the three that I want to sort of talk a wee bit more. The last four episodes have been more about my approach to coaching and sort of trying to influence your idea of that, because I believe that it's the right way for an overall good in every sport. But from now on, every week I'm going to start discussing a wee bit more technical issues and giving you a wee bit more insight on things that we should be doing now that we are a coach. The first four episodes were about sort of how to approach your coaching, but now we're going to start moving into how to set up a training session, how to pick a team, things like that. It's this season, or this series is aimed at relatively new coaches and novice coaches. There is parents out there is coaches out there who have never been on the side of the line and are maybe a wee bit confused, and that's what I'm trying to do with this series, and I'm really happy with how it's going at the moment. So the first one is formations. In hurling, in Gaelic football, and GAA, where I would mainly operate, there's not a great variation. There's 15 players versus 15 players in all codes, even the ladies. There's not a great variation. It used to be more of a stigma that it was 15 versus 15, and the way that the formation would have worked would have been, sorry. This is the formation in a normal GAA hurling and football and camogie and ladies football. You would have the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper is the only constant in any sort of sport. In football, it's the only constant. There's not one in rugby. There's not one in cricket. There's not one. There is one in ice hockey, a goaltender. Mainly a goalkeeper in a sport that's relevant to that is the only actual formation that's worth relating to. But in GAA, this is what used to be the formation. It used to be 6 defenders, 3 half fullbacks, 3 halfbacks, 2 midfielders, 3 half forwards, and 3 full forwards. Now, in the modern game, this has been totally done away with, because in some capacities, these two players here, the two cornerback forwards, that's what they would be called. This would be the corner forward, the full forward, and the corner forward. They were very rarely got the ball. They would have been more maybe a free taker, maybe somebody who wasn't good from play, maybe somebody who couldn't trust out the field would play there. If they were good enough to make the team, but just slightly, they would be the positions that you would fill with a player, especially in club and this in county level. But then what started happening was that this here player, number 15, there's many positions that he can actually play in. So, just bear with me a second. In this example, right, we have number 15 x'd out. Now, he would actually, in some capacities, he would go into a third midfielder, as you can see that he's there. So then they would have two full forwards. So their line would change to being like so. So they would bring their fella out here to try to uneven the matchups. So if the team who they were facing, if they were playing a conventional 15 players, which would have been three full forwards, if you were playing a midfielder here, you have a tough decision to make. You either take your cornerback, who would be similar to, depending on the team and depending on the league, he would be similar to the full forward, corner forward, because you have two, you would maybe have him as one of your main, but in the real senior teams, you would have your two full cornerbacks. They would be your best man markers, because as I say, the guy, if you take a guy out of the game with his marking and the ball doesn't come stick when it goes to him, they will stop using him. So if you take him out to here, well, man marking won't be as relevant in the midfield. The reason for this is because if you get a hand in and block the ball, or if you have more touches of the ball, you may not, this player who's defending him may not be as apt at playing the game, which is mainly why he's a defender by chance. So then what you would do is you'd have to try and change your team, because it's unfair advantage here. Well, not unfair advantage, there's an advantage. That means that they have more chance of winning the ball. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that. And if this guy decides to stay back, well, then it's 3-on-2 here. But this player here wouldn't be, as I was describing earlier, sort of the 15th best player on the team. He would be one of the best players, so that he can come out and make the three in midfield, so that they can dominate this area. Because in GAA and in hurling, this happens in hurling as well, the ball is popped out or kicked out by the goalkeeper, and in a conventional game of football and hurling, the ball is pucked into the middle of the two midfielders here with their opponents, and if you dominate that player, it would have been conventional for 15 years ago, if you were dominating that player, that nothing would have changed. And they were the GAA coaches of the 80s and 90s weren't very tactically aware. They understood this system, but they wouldn't have been tactically aware on how to change this system. For example, what's our backup? If this player here was getting dominated, what's our backup plan? Nowadays, under 17s, under 15s, under 13s, they will have a backup plan. Because you see, if you have two good players, see, in GAA, I believe personally, in my own experiences, that this diamond is the most important diamond in your team, including this here one full back and including this here one full forward. If you because if you have a good spine of the team, then you can't fit on awkward shapes into these other outside positions, because they are helping the main player. They're not. It's sort of a safe zone. These areas here on the fringes are safe zones, because you can give a player, for example, you can play a player at this cornerback. He might never touch the ball for 5 matches, because just the person he's marking, as I said, might be the 15th best player in their team. So he might not be very good compared to their team, or he might be the best player and he will get all the touches because he's trying to compete. But it gives them confidence. If you put a defender in, they're playing well, they're maybe not conceding chances, they're reading the game well, then you can give encouragement. But if you're playing them there in the half back line, centre half back, to me that's the most important position. That there, to me, is the most important position in GAA. In football, hurling, in camogie, in ladies football. The reason for this is they can see everything. They can see the full forward line, they can see the half forward line, they can see the midfield. They can dictate play. I would call that the quarterback position in GAA. Now, it is important that one of your best technical players is in there, so that they can read the play, they can dictate the play, but they can also help their teammates. 1, 2, 3, 6, 8. They're helping 8 teammates, but with their vision, they also can make runs into the opposition area later, which helps them so they can't be marked. That is the most important position in your team, without a doubt in my mind. They can see everything, they can do everything, they can make sure that that's your queen piece in chess. Your two midfielders primarily will be fit, strong, competitive. In hurling, you would have them tactically okay if they can lift it and puck it. Now, as I say, as the season goes on, I'm talking about under 11s, under 13s. You'd want to get them improving. You'd want to get them confident on the ball. You'd want to get them taking a touch, but you don't want them. You don't want them dictating things, because that's not their job. In GAA, their job, the two midfielders, is to win the ball and to be there to contribute to attacks. I say, in teams that I've ever managed, this is what I like to say. I like one of them to be defensive minded, which is this one, and one to be attacking minded. I don't want both of them up the field, because if the ball turns over, then instead of having only 6 players out of the game, we all have seen in hurling, we've all seen in Gaelic football even, you have 8 players out of the team. If he kicks the ball to this man, your 8 players are out of the game, and it's nearly 7 or 8 versus 6. That you don't want an overload like that. Whereas if one of them's behind, then they can pick up the space in between here. As I say, this tactics have now started changing in GAA. As I say, if you were dominating a player and you'd scored 3 or 4 points, or you'd won 3 or 4 kickouts on them, they would have just persisted with it. But now that the tactics have changed, you would have a situation where you'd maybe swap them two, or swap these two, or whatever your swap would be. But you'd have that predetermined in your mind that if number 6 isn't playing well, change them to number 8, change them to number 4, and give them a go in that position. As I say, This is just a conventional sport and formation. Now, as I say, we we really don't have too many more differences to that. Now there is, instead of this third midfielder, which is referred to as, there's a thing called a sweeper, and he'll stay or she'll stay, and they will not mark anyone. They'll be like a sweeper in soccer. They'll not mark anyone, and they'll be in between these two lines here, and they'll just be drifting across, back and forth, trying to stop goals, trying to stop easy scores. You're not going to keep a team quiet for 70 minutes or 60 minutes. That just won't happen, unfortunately. So you're trying to keep them to a minimum. And if you can get them shooting from 70, 50, 60, 70 yards, they're not going to score all them, because you just can't. You maybe find a night where somebody's on form and he scores 8 of them, but he'd be serious county material to do that. You know, especially in club games, you're happy for a player to shoot from 50 yards, because if he scores 3 out of 20, he's had a good night. So as I say, that's a conventional hurling and Gaelic football formation. Now in soccer, now that's a completely different kettle of fish. As you know, there's 11 players on the team. The only constant is the goalkeeper. Excuse me. The only constant is a goalkeeper. The rest of the formations have only been invented in the last. Well, the football is only 150 years old. So they've only been invented in the last 150 years. And as the players become more, our managers become more aware of data, more aware with formation, more aware with video, you're going to see a lot more unique formations coming through in the next 10 to 15 years. What I would say to you, anybody who's taken up any level of coaching in any sport, the first thing to do, if it's not a senior manager position, the first thing to do is to speak to the coordinator and to discuss a formation that is being used at the club at present. That's very important, because it's my belief that you need continuity. If you are playing a sweeper in your under 12s or under 13s, which I wouldn't advise, but they have to learn it sometime, and then you pass them on to the under 15s, and the under 15 manager looks at it and goes, oh no, where do you ever pick that out of? You haven't wasted 2 years, but you've confused a lot of young men or women or ladies. You've confused them because there's not been that continuity, there's not been that progression, there's not been that repetition, because suddenly the repetition's gone and what you've worked on for 2 years. Because I'll be honest with you, unless you're dealing with players every single day, the likes of Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola and Neil Lennon and all, unless you're dealing with players every day, you can't implement a new formation overnight, because you will take chances. Now that there could be a time where you have to change them in a match, you have to, or it's not working, or you want to switch it up, or you want to test on, but very, very rare would that happen. As I say, if you were let me just see here, like say for talk's sake, you were taking the coach said we're playing 3-5-2. There's a lot of variations of it, so I just want to show you here. So the three fullbacks, or sorry, the three centre backs wouldn't change overly, but they would have specific specific roles, yeah. So let's say, so you would have something like this. That's a conventional 3-5-2. Three centre backs to protect the goal. That should only be, there should be no crossbar above the crossbar there. Apologies. Then you'd have a right midfielder, three centre midfielders, and a left midfielder. Now you'd have two strikers as well. I think it is important to have two strikers or two attacking options on the field at all times, unless you are trying to run the game down or run the clock down for whatever reason that is. Now, the good thing about 3-5-2 is that, the good thing about a 3-5-2 is that if you come up against a team that's playing two strikers, as this is, well, you have an extra defender. You have an extra defender to comprehend that. Now, excuse me, if you're coming up against one striker, say you come up against a 4-5-1 formation, which is 4 defenders, 5 midfielders and 1 striker, you're very naive to play the 3-5-2 because you're using 3 players to mark 1 player. If that situation comes up, it would be advisable to drop one of your right or left midfielders into wing back positions and use this defender to either play in the space or to be the one of the defensive midfielders and start a diamond. Now what I mean by this here is you're taking him out, see, if you were playing against one striker, okay, in a 3-5-2, that is a wasted 3 players. Now you never want one-on-one with a striker if you can help it. You would like to have 2-on-1. You always want the numbers in your favour. Any major manager, any major coach is always trying to find overlapping or to have more numbers in certain areas. That's what Barcelona do in every stage of the game. That's what Real Madrid do. That's what Liverpool do. You want to have odd against even, because that means you have a player more than them. But if you were playing a one forward, or they were playing one forward, sorry, there's no reason for you to have 3. But if you move one up to here, he's playing defensive midfielding. He's doing a defensive midfield job. You're creating a pivot. You're creating a diamond because you'll push this player up. The reason that's important is that'll show them back more. You can't have 3 players in your attacking area and not play 4 or play man to man. You won't do it. And half of football tactics, if the players are good enough, is chess. You don't have to have this player playing amazing football and pulling up trees. All you need him to do is play within this space. And how you do that is you tell him and you show him and you practice with and training with him, because he wants to learn to do that, and you have to have the faith in him to do that. Because the way this formation is set up against a 4-5-1, you have 6 players in the midfield. Alright? You have 2 up here, but that comes 4 against 5 whenever you're attacking. Because this wing back here, this right midfielder, right, is getting forward. But also this wing back here is getting forward. So whenever you have a 4-5-1, you're playing against them, you have 2 against 1, right? Then you have 1, 2, 3, 3 against 4, but you have the overload. You have 5 against 4. So are you are compromising your midfield while you're attacking when you have the ball. When you don't have the ball, right, the wing back gets back, the midfielder gets back, you're now 6 against 5, you're now 2 against 1, and you're now 2 against 4. Alright? Because, and see if these two people shoot up, see if these two fullbacks move up, well, you are actually creating a 3-on-2. So, as I say, it's more about chess. It's more about chess than anything. But that's important just to explain that. Alright? There will be more of them, but believe me. So that was a 3-5-2, and that was the issues with it. It is a good formation to use, especially if you have more midfielders and attacking options. But the midfielders and the wide midfielders have to understand that they have to get up and down the field, and they need the right fatigue and stamina for that. Excuse me. The second topic is balance. Excuse me. Balance is very important for all ages, all groups, all sizes, because if you have a good core, you're going to be hard to knock off the ball. You're going to be hard to manipulate in certain ways that's legal within the game. Not just here and there, knocks here and there. You have to be able to withstand that. Now, how you create balance is by getting your core better, and also by using your stretching, especially in warm-ups. Whenever you put your leg up behind touch your bum with your leg or your foot. You also bring up knee highs. That's all about your hamstrings. It's all about your thighs. But it's also about creating balance, because you're bringing it up and you're having to balance in order to do that. That's why a lot of the times the coaches will insist on not leaning on to something, because you're trying to create balance in your core, in your gut. This is, as I say, is important when you have the ball and when someone is trying to knock you off balance. Because everyone tries to do that, because that's how you make someone miss. If someone goes to kick a shot or goes to score for a goal or a drop kick or something, if you can just get him knocked enough to knock him off balance, he's hit a different part of the ball, he's hit a different part of the goal, or he's missed it altogether. And how you do that with balance is you do it with Pilates, is you do it with a lot of stretching, but you also do it using yoga balls, the big inflatable balls. If you sit on them, if you make sure that you always have a good warm-up, that creates balance straight away, and it's very important, and it's something to learn from. Don't be afraid to go online. I've done it many times, and just Google balance, Google how to get more agility into your squad, onto your training sessions, and it is very easy to add it to, but you just need to be a bit more confident with it. As I say, that's really all I have to say on it. The third topic is skills. The skills of the game are what win games. Now, in many different sports, there's many different skills, but if I can't go through and name them all, or I'll be here for the rest of the week. In Gaelic football and in hurling, where my main thing is, I do coach football as well, but not at a level not at a very high level. I coach in the Special Olympics for down team. Now, as I say, the skills, you need to learn them. And, one touch one touch back and forth is a skill. In Gaelic football, striking it off your right foot, striking it off your left foot, striking it on your right hand pass, striking it on left hand pass, they're skills that you have to master. And if you can bring them in, do not get an idea as a coach that you need to be running these players 5 laps of the field. That's a waste of time. But if you can get get players into the smallest groups possible. Do a drill where it's 3 players and see if you were kicking the ball 20 yards, follow your pass. So you kick the ball to the player, then you make sure you're there whenever he kicks it back. Now that'll keep open your chest. And that always comes from your ball, making sure the ball's the right size, making sure you have enough of them, making sure things like that there you can control. And see if you have only groups of 3, you're going to get more touches, you're going to get more agility, but you're also going to find where people's strengths are and where their weaknesses are. Because you see, if a player kicks a ball with their left foot and it goes 10 yards to the left, right, Seamus, you need to get that sorted. It means then you're not taken for a fool. But that's just the way skills are. But you have to work on them, and you have to implement, and you have to bring them into your training. Because if you don't, they'll wear away, and you'll only have athletes. You'll have basically glorified runners. Because you see this hand pass thing that Mickey Hart does all the time. It did kill the game for a little bit, but people are starting to get away from it. But I think Mickey Hart would have been better. What he was trying to do was get the percentages. But if he had practiced and practiced and practiced with his coaching panel and with his county panel about kick passing off the left, off the right, and brought in a bit more footballers, they would have dominated a lot more. And that's where skills come into it. You can't play the percentage game in sport. It only gets you so far, and then you meet a big heavyweight or big juggernaut and they'll just swat you aside. You have to work on the skills. You have to do left side, right side, pucking. You have to do high catches, but you have to do it in a controlled way. No more than 3 at a group, unless you don't have the balls. And see, once they get into that, you will never see a better team, because it takes months. Believe me, it takes months. If you're training 2 times a week or 1 time a week, it takes months to implement something like that. You can't just do that drill once every month. You have to be doing it twice a month. If you have 4 sessions, you need to be doing them drills. You need to be doing 3 in a group, 20 yards, pucking it on the left hand side, pucking it on the right hand side, pucking it up in the air, pucking it down into the ground. Now, the first week, you'll be going, oh my God, what did that fella tell me to do? This is ridiculous. But see, by maybe the middle of your season, the players will have more confidence. They'll also be better. They'll also know the drill better, and they'll also be able to interact better with you. That only creates far better players. Now, you might have got beaten the first 6 matches, and you think, this boy, why did I go near him? But you are not there. Remember that you are not there until under 17s to win games. You're not. You're there to make a winning culture, right? Which I know includes winning games. Yes, it does. But if you can get a mentality right, then you can develop the player, then you can encourage the player, and then you can give them that drive. Well, winning is the last bit. Winning is the senior bit. Because you see, if you can get a player with a point left shooting for goal and missing by that much, sure, you're going to be annoyed and he's going to be annoyed. But you say to him, I wasn't far away. Next ball you get, you go for it again. Now, he might not get another chance for 2 matches, but he'll score that next goal, or he'll get closer again, because his confidence is up and he knows where the goal is and he knows how to play. You do not assume that if you're winning 10 games out of 12 every year that you're doing well, because unless you're doing it with development in development in your mind all the time. How do I develop wee Jimmy so he's better next week? So he's better next week. So he's better next week. And you see, by the time wee Jimmy gets to senior level, he'll be as good as any county player in the county, because you put them positions in place under 11. At under 11, you showed him how to kick the ball straight with both feet. You showed him how to hand pass with both hands. You showed him how to catch a ball high. You showed him how to protect himself. You showed him how to hit points. You showed him how to score goals. You showed him how to interact with players. You showed him how to read a game. You showed him how to take a 1-2 and put the ball over the bar. You showed him how to kick over his top of his over his shoulder. Then what you do is you encourage him. And then he will flourish, and he knows he can do it, and he will practice, and he will get right to the top. And people won't be giving you any pats in the back, but you'll not need them, because you'll know that you helped a young man who wanted to do well. But there'll be one case out of them 30, and the other 27. You'll meet them, and you'll say, "Are you not playing anymore?" "Nah, I can't be bothered." But it didn't matter. It was worth it for that, because if you got one player from every panel of 2 years, that's some going. Unfortunately, from a Castlewellan point of view, the exact opposite's happening in Kilcoo. They are getting 2 or 3 players per panel over the last maybe 4 years. And they now have a problem where they don't know where to play the players because they've made too many. And you're sitting there going, I wish you could have 3 of them. But they have put things in place. Their model works for them. Wouldn't be my model, but it works for them. But you encourage the skills, develop the skills, but always use the skills to make balance and agility and fitness. Because if you narrow the numbers down as much as you can to at least 3, maybe 4, so that you can have 2 on either side, always moving the ball, then they're going to get fitter, they're going to get better, because you don't run. I've been guilty of it too. I've ran 10Ks, I've ran around Castlewellan Lake a couple of times thinking I'm fit, and then I go onto a pitch and it's completely different. Match fitness, really different. Sprints, everything's a wee bit faster. You gotta be thinking, you gotta lift the ball. I've seen times where I lift the ball, cut it up, went to go hit it. I don't have the strength. I just didn't have the energy. It was too late in the match. But I have to look at myself and say, right, what did I do wrong? But I still had the skills. But if you use a pitch, if you use the conditions that the match dictates, quick turn of pace, move, agility, drop down and land your feet, get it both sides. When it comes to a match, these players will be ready. So I say thank you very much. That's this week's session. I'm going to be going through a few more formations in the next couple of weeks. And if you liked it, please subscribe. Thank you very much.